The first story is one that maybe is a little bit old, but again, this is the first episode, so I'm working with what I got. If you haven't seen it by now, somehow, there is a new story in the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon universe. It is what used to be in the books known as the stories of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the stories of Dunk and Egg. There is finally a trailer for the live action show, which has been, they've been working on it for a couple years now. And it looks so good. Even if you never saw a Game of Thrones, even if you never read any of the Song of Ice and Fire books, didn't watch House of the Dragon, if you haven't experienced any of this, now is the time to get on. The stories, a lot of fans love them because it takes an interesting universe around those stories, and it shrinks it down into a much more personal scale. It's just about Dunk and Egg. It's about this hedge knight who isn't connected to any of the other royal houses, trying to see if he can live up to the task of being a full, proper knight with his young squire, Egg, who's this weird little bald kid he found on the road. They're incredible. Go watch the trailer, and if you want, there's also some pretty excellent videos out there kind of explaining it. If you were interested in going to Dragonsteel Nexus 2025, which is Brandon Sanderson's convention, unfortunately they have sold out. He announced it in his weekly update. That's awesome for them. I'm glad to see it keeps growing. I hope to get to attend myself one of these days because it looks so awesome. Yeah, they're officially sold out, so if you're interested, you can, I think, still get on the list for, if they get tickets returned to them, I'm sure they'll put them back out there, because they're really against reselling for a high price. They're really against scalping and stuff like that, so they might have tickets available again later, but for now, they are sold out. Same time, he mentioned, Sanderson mentioned that there is another Kickstarter that he wanted to spread the word about, and the same for me. Dungeon Crawler Carl is announcing a Kickstarter for a spin-off comic series, Alligator. I don't know that much about Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's on my list. I hear it's incredible. They made a webtoon recently that apparently I heard has gone really well, but they are doing a Kickstarter to try to get a extra thing attached to that webcomic. Links are in the description for all these stories if you're interested in any of this stuff. Check it out. In a shocker to nobody, EA, most voted worst company of all time, not just in video games, but of all time, has announced that they are in the works, in the middle of implementing AI into all of their projects in all of their companies so that they can save money by cutting labor. Isn't that nice? It's not only exactly what the corporations promised they would do, but it is what fiction told us that they would do. They're taking the robots and cutting us out of jobs. Isn't that wonderful? Who needs video games made by people? I want video games made by an unthinking, unfeeling, jumped up version of autocorrect. Isn't that wonderful? You're gonna have your phone's Alexa or Google or whatever it is on your brand, on your device. They're gonna be the ones who are deciding who gets fired and who gets to stay. The article didn't say that. It just said that they're going to be able to cut a lot of jobs because, the robots will be able to just generate it. But we all know, even as good as AI has gotten, it needs humans to direct it. If they are trying to go as fast as it sounds like they're going, there's probably going to be a significant dip in the quality of the games. Not like EA's games tended to be very good anyways. It was only the ones that kind of are like subcontracts for other companies. But I'm getting more into the editorial area with this. But if you're into video games, you know that EA has a bad reputation for a reason. So this is not at all unexpected. But if you want the details again, comments are down below. In one of the coolest moves that I've ever seen, though, we are getting I don't know what to call it. It's not quite an interquel, but we are getting a recap story from James Islington. Basically, if you do not have time to reread The Will of the Many, or you're just not interested in rereading it because you already did, he's released a new story that is in-universe that recaps what happened there. If you're just ready and bustling to go, and you're very excited to read The Strength of the Few, but you're worried you'll be able to remember it, or you're just kind of curious, he did an in-universe story where one of the characters basically recaps what happened in the previous book. It's really cool. It seems like he's released it for free. It's available on his website, and again, links are in the description. for another piece of unfortunate video game news. What sounded like one of the coolest and most timely games maybe ever was canceled by Ubisoft. You know, they have done a lot of different, sometimes interesting, sometimes kind of boring or basic stuff for their Assassin's Creed franchise, and it looks like they were working on a game where you got to be a freed slave after the Civil War. You were going to be going around and killing clan members, and they canceled it because it was going to be too politically sensitive. I'm sorry. You were worried about pissing off the clan members in your audience. That's who you were worried about pissing off. That's the audience that you care to keep, Ubisoft. We need more games right now about killing Nazis and clan members. We need some fucking relief in this day and age. We could have used this. We could have really used this, okay? So of course the AAA game studio decided the best thing to do would be to cancel it. It only makes sense in this sad, sad world that we inhabit, but moving on. On the other hand, we have a lot of good news as far as adaptations are concerned. You know, stuff from writing or shows, just basically stuff being turned into movies and television. And my favorite piece that we've gotten recently is Ryan Coogler. He's probably best known for Black Panther, but he also made Creed, and he just made the incredible Sinners, which I'm so mad that I wasn't able to go see one of the, like, a 72mm on film super wide formats that were screening around the country. I could have driven to it, but it didn't work out, you know. Anyways, Ryan Coogler is set to remake the X-Files. That sounds so awesome, man. There hasn't been much movement in that space in a while since the remake, or not the remake, but it's like a prequel series that came out a couple years ago. It was like one season. I don't think people hated it, but I didn't hear people going crazy about it either. Apparently his mom is a huge fan, and so she got him into it, and he's down to remake it, so that is very exciting. As a fan of both Mr. Coogler and the original X-Files, I can't wait. It still holds up. I say the first episode is a perfect opening episode on a perfect mystery. You should definitely check it out if you haven't. The Black Library has gotten a great get for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Now, I've heard people reporting on it and calling it Warhammer 40k. Already gotten some pretty good 40k works, at least one book, and I've heard several short stories. I don't have a list of them already available, but just Google it from this author. But this is something for Age of Sigmar. We are getting our first book from the point of view of a lizard man in Age of Sigmar, and it's being written by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, if you don't know who he is, his biggest series is probably Children of Time. It's about these, like, giant alien eternal spiders. It's pretty crazy. People say it's excellent. I haven't gotten to reading it yet, but it is, like, maybe even faster of a writer than Brandon Sanderson. He writes a lot, and apparently most of it's very good. They've gotten him to write a book for Age of Sigmar. That's so excellent. It's called Starseer's Ruin, and it's about a lizardman, some kind of a skink, going on and finding the ruins of a battleship. That's what I'm not very familiar with Age of Sigmar. I know a little bit about Fantasy Warhammer, but what I've learned about has mostly been about pre-end time, so I'm actually not too familiar with the setting, but this makes me want to get into it very much so. That's great for fantasy fans, and honestly it's great for Warhammer 40k fans as well. The more high-profile names we can get to work in the confines of it, the more we can get people to actually care about the more narrative side of things. I mean, there've always been tons and tons of novels put out. I mean, there's so many Horus Heresy books, it's insane, but I'm just saying, the more big names we can get, even in just the literary field, to come in and work for the Black Library, the closer we can get Games Workshop and the Black Library to Hollywood, and the more likely we'll actually get an adaptation. I mean, we've heard Henry Cavill's working on it, but getting somebody like Adrian Tchaikovsky to work on a book is just, I mean, that's just a huge gift. Great crossover potential. I'm so excited. I can't wait to check out his 40k stories. And once I know more about Sigmar, come back and check this out. That's excellent. So we're going to end this story report with 2 spooky time picks, since this is in the spooky month, of course. While I was browsing around looking for stuff that was game related to talk about, I found this horror game called Afar. It looks very interesting. It's an old school FMV sort of game where it's basically like a movie, and really what you're choosing is the cutscene. It's more like a choose your own adventure narrative than a typical game, but it looked very interesting. Go check out the trailer. It's up all over the place now. Just type in Afar FMV, you'll find it. And in television news, again, we have another big name coming to the forefront. We have John Carpenter stepping up to the plate to produce an anthology series similar to like Twilight Zone or the X-Files. It sounds like it's kind of weirdly a mix of both. It's gonna be called John Carpenter Presents. I don't know if each is gonna be like John Carpenter Presents Murder Mysteries, and then season 2 is like John Carpenter Presents Spaghetti Sauce, or if it's gonna be more like just John Carpenter Presents Season 1, Season 2, or like John Carpenter Presents an episode name. I don't know how to get into it, but the showrunners are going to be Michael Amo and Will Pascoe from Elevation Pictures. They've done a couple of horror movies that have gotten in theaters, and one that's airing on Hulu and Disney Plus right now. It's interesting because they called it an anthology series, but they said that the whole first season is going to be set in Alaska, specifically, with people dealing with the horrors, both existential and environmental and supernatural there. So it sounds like it's going to kind of be like a themed anthology. So maybe it's like, you know, John Carpenter presents the horrors of the cold, and season 2 is like John Carpenter presents the deep of the bog, or whatever it is. That's really awesome because we haven't got a ton from Carpenter recently, at least not in a way that, you know, has made waves, at least not in a way that I've heard about. I'm not the biggest fan of his works, but who doesn't love his biggest and best stuff, the stuff that, you know, it's really shook the industry. If you somehow don't know who John Carpenter is, he brought us so many important horror movies back in the day. He did Halloween, The Thing, The Fog. Apparently he did Christine, which I didn't know about that. And he's done like actually a lot of important sci-fi and action movies too. Like a favorite of mine is Escape from New York. Escape from LA is pretty fun too. And then I didn't realize that he did the original Assault on Precinct 13. That's very interesting. If you actually haven't checked out some of that stuff, he also did the composing for a lot of his earlier movies as well. He made the Halloween theme, and he goes on tour sometimes just to play the music. So honestly, I'm almost more excited to hear new music from him than I am to see new directing. I don't know, I'm just curious about how this project is going to go. It could go anywhere because it's an anthology, you know? I'm very curious. Hopefully that comes out soon. That's all for the story report. I will see you when there is more to report.